We are ending the week with one more live stream podcast. You recognize his face if you've been watching these live streams over the last 2 weeks. James shared some of his outside stories besides entrepreneurship on that entrepreneur show. He's coming here, as he said, not afraid to share his vulnerability. James, thank you for joining this time a mental health break.
Vincent, thanks for having me. Happy to kind of share the journey that I've been through and continue to start figuring out through mental health. It's always a long journey sometimes.
It certainly was inspiring to me because of how much success you found despite all these challenges. So everyone, buckle up. This is a mental health break. Thank you for tuning in and continuing to listen and helping make this show now a top 5% global podcast. We are brought to you today by John Ford's Empathy Card Set, Empathy app. Be sure to head to johnford.com and check all of that out. And today, we're ending the week with a conversation that I hope will help some people going forward, especially into the week. James, you know, on that entrepreneur show, we take it from the top. Same thing over here. Please share your story from wherever you feel comfortable related to the show today here on a mental health break.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how many out there, we all go through it. We just go through it, I think, at different times in our life, and that's death. And when death is at your doorstep, and then what happens after close people in your life pass away and how to deal with that, or how to just it's there. So for me, I grew up in Durham, North Carolina, and I happen to have triplet best friends growing up, where nobody else could know who is who, but I knew exactly which one was which because we spent every day together, fishing and basketball, and we went to school together every day. These were like my brothers, and we went to camps on summer camps, the overnights, the learning how to drive together. Like it was me and the three triplets and a couple other friends that were inseparable.
Yeah.
So, now the issue was, and the thing they didn't want anybody else to know about, was they had a disease called cystic fibrosis. And you would have never known. Like if you went to school with them, if they didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. They did all their therapy outside of school hours, and and when they had occasional hospital visits. And with cystic fibrosis back then, the life expectancy for someone with that disease is 18 years old.
Okay.
And so, but when you're 12, 13, 14, you live forever, right? You don't think about it. And you're like, oh, and you kind of just, you don't really think about it. And nowadays, people with cystic fibrosis, the way medications come, average lifespans between 45, 50 years old, which is incredible. And it continues to get better thanks to modern medicine. But we didn't have that back then. And so, unfortunately, we graduate high school. I'm working and building my businesses, as we've talked about in the past on the other show. But my first one of my friends, he passes away at 19. And you just, someone you're with every day is no longer there, So sadness comes right like a wave, and I'm with the other two, and we're just spending every day together at the house. And, their parents, I'm there every day with them. We're always hanging out when I can. Obviously, I'm still running my business and then trying to put myself through university at night. But I just couldn't handle it. Like I stopped doing things. Like I started trying other things that I normally wasn't interested in, to fill this hole of just pure sadness. And I thought I could just fill it with stuff, like here's a hole, I'm just going to fill it. And back then, mental health, nobody talked about mental health. Like over 20 years ago, it was like, rub some dirt in it, get over it. Hey, sorry about your loss. But like,
exactly,
there was no help. The mental health just wasn't talked about. Like nobody knew if you were struggling with anything, And so I didn't ask for help. I didn't seek out help. I just cried myself to sleep. You know what I mean? And then my next one passed. So we decided to, all right, let's go do something. My grandfather has an old truck. He lives across the country. Let's travel all of I-40 and we're going to drive back. They had never been on an airplane before. When you have really bad disease like that, you're just, you have no money. I don't know how a better way to say it, but you basically can't afford anything. So I'm like, all right, we're going to buy these tickets together. We'll figure out a way. We're going to go get my grandfather's truck and we're driving that back. And so maybe like a week before we're going, one of the other triplets needs to go like the routine hospital visit. Like we're just like, oh, he'll be in and out, and then we'll go. And he wasn't getting better. He wasn't getting better. And like the tickets were coming, and we were there the night before. We're like, and the other brother's like, just go. Like you and Martin, just go. I'll be here when you get back. Like just go and do something. It's we're on a break. Like we scheduled this. Don't worry. And so Martin and I hop on an airplane, and we land in Dallas because you go through Dallas to get all the way to Phoenix, and we get stopped right at the end of the gate. You guys got to turn around. You got to go back right now. So he turns around because I'm not officially family, so they didn't do that for me. So I fly out, and now I'm out there figuring out what the heck, you know.
Yeah.
Drive all the way back by myself, you know, and I'm on the floor like what's going on? Still got to take his truck back. But my grandfather's neighbor was retired. He's like, I'll take you back. I didn't know this guy from anybody. And I'm like, man, this guy is like, I look back on it, I was like, he must have been he must have just been one of those saints, you know, when like you're going through it, like having people around you, number one, is like huge. Even people you don't know, like you never know who's gonna step up. This guy did not know me. And him and I drove across the country together with a guy I didn't even know. Unbelievable.
An experience.
Yeah. Well, I get back and I beeline it right to the hospital. He is not well. They had to put like a tracheotomy in him. You know what that is? Where they have to cut a hole in your throat. So they're like, you want to go see him? I'm like, of course I do. But like, so I walk into his room, and I mean, I'm, you know, nearly 20 years old, and I'm like, I walk in there, try to talk to him. It's just me and him in this dark room, and he's on this like ventilator thing. I don't know what to say. Right. What do you say? What do you say? I don't know what to say. So I'm like, I gotta step out of here. And I'm just kind of like, I start feeling like stuff I've never, like my body. And the nurse was like, runs and grabs me. She's like, you sit down right now. I was basically getting ready to pass out because I just couldn't handle any of it. And he didn't know if he's going to wake up again, but he did wake up, grateful. And we got to talk for another week, and that was it. And round two of death, you know, back to back, year over year death. And now it's just me and the other brother.
The two brothers both had cystic fibrosis, and the third does not.
Guess what? The third did too.
And he's healthy.
No, he died a couple more years later after that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So after the first one died, I just tried to fill that, now that I look back, depression as with anything.
Sure.
But I couldn't get myself even to class. I could barely run my business. I was like on the floor. When the second one died, like GPA was down the toilet, like 1.4, not like business barely making it. Like I was just knockout punch. And I didn't have a lot of people around me. That was them. That was my crew.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody, you know? And so these girls, when I actually went to class, were like, do you want to like go to church? And I'm an atheist. Like for my family, like Jesus was Santa Claus. I was like, I never been, but I was very open to stuff. Like, whatever, I'll go. So I went to church for the first time in my life, and the people were sufficiently weird. This is not what I no offense if people listening, like, just, I'm an atheist, you know, I come from an atheist background. You never even read anything in the Bible, and your family tells you it's Santa Claus. Like, don't ruin it for the kids type of thing. Yeah. And sorry for people that are still listening to this that around Santa. You know? But like, so I end up going and like, that is crazy. And then they're like, you should read the Bible. I'm like, yeah, maybe I will, maybe I won't, you know? And so I decide every morning to like, and everyone had different, like, at that time I should have been going to the account. Like I should have get help, but I wasn't asking for any. So I would wake up in the morning and I go get a cup of coffee and I rewrote the whole New Testament by hand. It took me months and months and months. I just rewrote the whole thing. And then I looked up and I was like, huh. Like maybe my life is rough right now. Maybe I'll try to do what this thing says.
Yeah.
Like, and if you actually read, and again, doesn't matter faith background, but if you actually like read it and try to do it to a red-blooded American male, by the way, that's me. I'm like, this stuff's crazy.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Like this is crazy. This is crazy. Just like all I could say is, but I was so defenseless.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to try it. So I did. And for me, I just started walking in the shoes.
So you
And
would say that the Bible, this filled that void that you were yearning to fill.
no, no,
Temporary, not at
no,
all.
none. I still, if you get me in the right conditions, I'm going to crack in too.
Sure.
I felt that this was this hole that I wanted to fill with everything, including things, not good things, great things, religion. I throw it all in there. Mm-mm.
Right, right.
I 20 years later, and I've experienced way more death too. Like I don't know what it is with my life. I've had more and more people die that are like I got other crazy stories. We don't have to go down, but like,
Yeah.
um, I mean, I just thought it would fill it. It didn't. I mean, other great things happen because of those things in business and religion. Like, those are a whole other podcast. Go listen to the other podcast we just did, right? But I found that the only thing that fills that hole is that person. So what I do now and what helps me in my mental health is talking about it, talking about memories, talking about them. Like don't hide it under anything. Don't try to fill it with any other thing you can find. It's an unfillable hole. There's only one perfect fit.
Well said.
And so what gives me peace or more peace, and I'll never like there's no getting over it.
Of
There's
course.
no getting through it. I don't want to get over it. I don't
Yeah.
want to get through it. I want to talk about it. I want to remember. And that chapter in my life had incredible memories, First learning to drive, catching fish together, going to basketball camp, like great grow. I had awesome friends, you know. I mean, I still wish they would be around. They probably it'd be about that time now with where medicine. I'm dating myself, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think for my mental health, like don't not talk about it because I come from a family we stuff it.
Yeah.
My family was like, don't talk about stuff it. My dad's dad died when he was young, and he didn't. I always say you can't give what you don't have. Like we didn't talk about this. Like my parents weren't talking about this. Like it wasn't. I just stuffed it. That's what I learned to do. You see, like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm learning to stuff it from my family, but stuffing it did not help anything.
It never does. Holding it all in only has adverse effects for our mental health. I believe that. And it's important to have a support circle. Everyone, whether it's a friend or family or someone, if you're feeling alone, go to meetup.com or one of these meet groups and find something that you have some commonalities with. Go on social media. You can't be supportive or a best friend to others unless you start taking care of yourself. It's something we all learn at different points. But I'd love to ask James, as I'm so sorry for all of this that had happened to you, but eventually you did find a way out. Eventually you found a way to get your businesses back, your health back, and just making a difference more and more as in honor of them, maybe perhaps. What would you say some things that you did for your mental health were? As for me, I always promote early exercise for my mental health, writing, of course. Did any of those fit your needs, or what worked for you?
Yeah, I think to keep things fresh and for me is like I lean on religion, right?
Mhm.
So I don't like every morning I get up, I have a routine where I spend more time reading in the word, praying, and getting myself prepared for whatever the day throws at me. Like my anchor is definitely going to be rooted definitely biblically. Like just I find a lot of comfort in prayer, a lot of comfort in reading, and then comfort in community. Like the community that I'm with in my faith community give me a lot of support and love. I have family now. I have kids. 4 beautiful children and a wife, and um, that gives me a lot to look forward to. You know what I mean? And like I get up now for others, and like that's what drives me is like giving, giving, giving. I don't build these big businesses and nonprofits that I have so I can go and like have the latest yacht or fill in the blank amazing purchase. Like I have found a lot of joy in giving things away, time and money and just a listening ear and a vulnerability. And when you get your face rocked at like talking about it, just talk about it. Like, I'm just talking about my human experience. I share. I used to stuff. Don't talk. Don't say. Don't bring it up. I don't want to go there because I was afraid of my feelings and afraid of my tears and afraid of the hard part of it, like, but, you know, with a little courage and a little transparency and I find so much power in vulnerability. And I think that I'm not alone. You know what I mean? Like, I've met more people through death than, and it shaped me. I mean, I buried a friend 4 years ago. He got in a kayaking accident, and his girls are best friends with my girls. I unfortunately went to a funeral of a couple that I did the um, premarital counseling for. She died young of cancer. These are kids that are teenagers. Like, I've seen more and more, and these are beautiful, wonderful people that I've been deeply close with. So I've experienced a lot of this, and it's hard.
Well, I'm sorry for the loss that you've been facing, but I do want to use your story right now as motivation and the pick me up that someone may need today. I know my closest experience to what you're relating is my grandmother's death that took the biggest toll on me. And while nothing fills that void, time is time, right? Time just helps things, and it doesn't make it easier or worse. But talking about it is important, and everyone, that is a huge thing. And I've got it here in the show notes, the power of talking about it and how you need to. The waves of sadness he talked about earlier, but coming out of it. If you could give advice here, James, to anyone struggling today who is going through the tough time that we are talking about, finding our way out, what would that advice be to them?
Man, get open. Like, don't stuff it. I literally last week, I'm telling you one story that happened to me last week. Is beautiful. So I had we were helping out with our teens and college students and young professionals and getting to know them. And this one young man was around for teens and then for college, and then he disappeared, like, was gone. And I haven't talked to him for 20 years maybe. And I get a LinkedIn message from him saying, "Hey, hope you and your family are well. If you ever have a chance, I'd love to connect." I was like, "Sure, here's my calendar link." Like, you got it, dude. And so I get on with him last week, and he gets and talks to me, and he's like, "Hey, I want to apologize to you." Apologize. Like, he's like, I ghosted you after you were in my life for a long time, and I'm going through a program right now, and it's a recovery program, Celebrate Recovery thing. And he said, well, at first thing was they told me was to apologize to people, and you were on my list. And I was like, dude, you're 100% forgiven, man. And then he was telling me what his battle was with and the addictions he's facing eye to eye. And he was so vulnerable and so open. It was so powerful. And I told him at the end, I was like, I said, "I'm so proud of you for your vulnerability. You've made," and I told, my wife and my friends, I was like, "Here's this young man who's now an old man with gray hair with kids, and he's being like uber vulnerable, and he's asking for forgiveness." And like, of course, like, what am I gonna say? You know? And it was
Yeah.
beautiful and powerful, and like, I shed tears, and then, like, it was awesome. And he's like, "James, you're the only one that responded of the entire list I emailed." I was like, "Whoa."
I'm sure it felt good for him to hear the words, "You are forgiven."
Yes. He was so grateful. He was so open. He was so vulnerable. And I actually believe, and I've seen this happen to me multiple times with other people coming out of this kind of stuff, same thing. And I've seen incredible things happen. And my friend that I buried from the kayaking accident, our best friends are the girls are best friends. A guy that did the same thing to me 10 years ago when he came out of Celebrate Recovery, he actually started dating that gal, and he married that gal. And this was a guy I met randomly, like, in a guitar store.
Wow.
Ooh.
So
So, like,
you're like a little,
whoa.
little matchmaker too to add to your resume.
Yeah, but, like, he came out of the same thing. Like, I told that the guy who just told me last week, I was like, "Dude, this is your first step in celebration of your recovery, and it's on the back of your vulnerability and your openness, and you're willing to get out with it." And I I'm like, "Man, that's what this is all about." And for me, whether it's death, maybe it's for someone listening, chemical dependence, or whether fill in the blank, that vulnerability is powerful. And if told to the right people, and hey, he had a whole list. At least there was one. I
Mhm.
happened to be at that time, and it means the world. And there are people out there that care, and there are people out there that'll listen. There's no easy fix it button. I always say, we'll sit at the wall with you. I can't fix it. I can't take it away from you, but I can sit here next to you beside it while you're sitting at your wall until something comes down. So everybody needs a Forrest needs a Bubba, and a Bubba needs a Forrest.
I absolutely love that. I just was typing up before the power of vulnerability. Everyone, he's inspired me in many ways. I know he did for you too, James. Thank you so much for taking the time to hop on this time. A mental health break. You taught us that we can push through death. We believe in ourselves. The waves of sadness, again, that power of vulnerability. Talking about it, you need to do it. And I couldn't agree more. Where can we find you online, James?
LinkedIn. Just go to LinkedIn, look up James Hatfield, Hatfield. Feel free to reach out, connect. Happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn.
And we got to give some shout out love to Margaret for putting this together. Thank you so much. I know you're not watching on the live, but I hope you'll catch it on the other way out. Everyone, this is a mental health break. Remember to subscribe for the latest episode. And my name is Vincent A. Lancy on any social or vincentalancy.com. One more shout out to John Ford, crushing it with his empathy card set, empathy app. Head to johnford.com, empathy card set. Just Google it. And Coming Alive podcastproduction.com to get your podcast journey started today. And with that, we're signing off from Florida to North Carolina. James, thank you so much.
Thank you.